observe, but it's a natural space. And it's a natural space where, at a given pace, you come to engage with nature. And this morning I was lying in a meadow. I've instigated a new practice called meadow bathing. I had all my clothes on, don't worry. And I was just lying down and immersing myself in that environment. And I think when you come to work in an allotment to tend the plants or be in a sensory garden, that's what you're doing. You're immersing, swallows going everywhere, that's good. You're immersing yourself in that environment. And whether you are conscious of the fact that that is a healthy place to be or not is immaterial. We're developing more and more science which shows us that being in green spaces is an enormous benefit to our mental and physical health. And in some parts of the world they've integrated this into healthcare. We're slow on these sorts of things, but hopefully we'll get there soon. And certainly we recognise the value when it comes to rehabilitation. We worked with one group in Scotland which is practicing conservation on a landscape scale. So they're basically trying to recover, as it stood, overgrazed, over forested with the wrong species areas by cutting down trees and restoring it to a natural environment, with people who were going through a rehabilitation from drug and alcohol problems. And they found that the connection that they forged was almost instantaneous and long-lasting. And one would wonder, therefore, I asked them, whether it might have been useful for these people to have been able to live in an environment where they had that connection in the first place. And of course, many of them didn't have that opportunity because they were living in urbanised centres and in cities. But once they went out into a more rural area and they connected and they participated, they never let go. So the ability, the value of these sorts of resources in terms of health is growing in terms of its awareness, and it's undoubted in terms of its efficacy. So that's good. The problem that we face is that we're interested in looking after the wider environment. You can make differences here, and obviously the swallows are telling us that it's a happy place for wildlife to be, and I'm sure there are plenty of other creatures in amongst this, if we had a chance to find them, that would tell us the same. The problem is that over the fence it's not such a good place to be. So the pressures that are put upon the environment through urbanisation and intensive agriculture are severe, and most of our principal habitats, many of our monitored species, 15% of them are in danger of extinction, and if we don't do something about it, we're going to lose them. So to just draw one statistic, which I've used frequently whilst giving this sort of address over the last 10 days, hedgehogs. Now, hedgehogs are an animal that I'm sure all of you love. Mrs. Tiggywinkle. They're a charming, apparently bumbling, but actually can be quite ferocious animals, certainly to other hedgehogs. If you've ever heard hedgehogs fighting, you wouldn't think that, you've changed the name, but, they're more Frankenstein than Tiggywinkle. They fight ferociously on occasions, hedgehogs. But nevertheless, we love our hedgehogs. Since the 1950s, we've lost 97% of those hedgehogs. 97%, that's in our, not quite my lifetime, I was born in 61, but in some of your lifetimes we've lost that many. I personally, and I'm sure many of you, don't want to wait for 98%, or 99, because that's just one away from extinction. What this says to me is that the methods that we employ in contemporary conservation aren't working, and that we need to do something rather urgently. And that's where I'm going to hand over to my young colleague Megan to tell you about what we're going to be doing in the near future. Megs, over to you.
So from the back of the BIOBlitz, what we've done is we've organised a People's Walk for Wildlife, and this is going to be taking place on September 22nd up in London. It would be really fantastic to have as many people there as possible. We're really trying to encourage a lot of young people to come as well. It's going to be events for young people, there's going to be things going on so they can get creative and really kind of get into it all. So there's a few kind of ideas that will be associated with this, but it's really important that we're all able to come together. I understand we've got our own specialisms, our own interests. As Chris said, some people really like the hedgehogs, other people like dragonflies, you might like seaweed, you might like nymphs, it doesn't matter what you like, but we're all trying to work towards the same thing. And it's about kind of connecting people and everybody coming together for that one common purpose, to really stand up and show that we are together, we are united, and frankly we've had enough of the declines.
Yeah, so try and get along.
So,
September the 22nd, we're going to leave some posters for you. If you would put them up in prominent places, as we've said to everyone else, not your toilet, because not so many people will see them there. That would be good. But there's a range of others that you can download from the website as from tomorrow. So you can download your favourite animal.
We've got fox and badger here, so we've got, and we've got,
an eagle.
An eagle.
But
So
there's also
lots
bumblebees,
of other things.
dolphins. And we've just been up with the freshwater ecology people, and I'm afraid to say we don't have an eel. I know. I'd let the eel
You've let it down.
people. I'd let the eel
You've let it
people
down.
go. The eel people be wriggling up in arms in a slimy fashion. Eels have declined by 90% in many areas. They are a species of critical conservation concern. So yeah, that's our premise, and I think the key thing to say is it's a walk beast. It's not.
Yeah, it is a walk.
It's not a demonstration. We don't want a sort of shouty, angry environment. We don't need to be angry. We are frustrated and we're disappointed by the lack of action, but we don't want to display that in an angry way. You know, we can be very peaceful and very democratic about this. And as we say, Megs has said, you know, we want it to be a very family-friendly environment, so that lots of young people will attend. It's their world tomorrow. In my lifetime, it's in a worse mess than it was when I first got interested in natural history. I'm not very happy about that. So I'd rather leave it in a slightly better state than a worse one. So this is my plan, but it's important that we recognise that, you know, we have to involve those young people to see that there's a value in looking after it for themselves. So thank you very much for I'm just easily distracted by swallows, they're beautiful. Thank you very much for the invitation to come and see you this afternoon. Again, apologies that we're late. We'll leave you with the posters. Also somewhere there's a postcard. And the postcard, oh, here we have one, yeah. Beast, you can tell everyone about that.
Okay, so here, this is addressed to Michael Gove. Would you like to see?
I'll take this.
And it is basically just a postcard which you can put a stamp. I've lost my words. It's day 10. You really have. If you can put a stamp on it and just put your signature on it, and it's basically a really polite message. And the last sentence just reads, basically, we are in need of some urgent action, and because you are the minister in charge, I'm writing to you to make some bold and brave changes today before it's not too late. Thank you. So it's really polite, and it's just to kind of put the message out there. So these will be left here, and if you could grab one and share them around with as many people as possible, sign your name and send them to him, that would be fantastic. He is invited to the walk.
He's invited to the walk, of course. You'll get to see whether he's going to turn up. We're not focusing any ire upon Mr. Gove. He's in the right place to do something at the moment. He's made a few of the right noises, so we're keen to encourage him to make a few more and actually implement some of the promises that he's hinted at. So again, as I said, this is not an angry demonstration against this government. We can't blame this or any other government for the problems. It's been ongoing for a very long time. The thing that we do have is the capacity to make a difference. We have the answers, we've got the toolkit, but we're just not using it. So all we need to do is to say, firstly, this is a little warning that we're about to stand up and be counted. This is where we stand up and hopefully be counted in large enough numbers for it to be of some significance. And alongside this, we'll be delivering to Mr. Gove and Rosanna Cunningham in Scotland and Hannah Blethen in Wales, who share the responsibility for looking after the environment of those countries. A raft of measures that, if we implement today, will make a difference tomorrow, not in 2045 or 2065, some of the dates in the government's 25-year plan. Hedgehogs aren't going to last that long, and nor am I. In fact, I'm now only looking forward to the next 3 hours. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you. Again, thank you to everyone for coming. We've had about 60 or so people down today doing counting and looking. I think we've got about 150 different varieties of plant in the garden and I think the moth guys were approaching 100.
Great.
Different species of moth that they've seen today, and a pair of little owls.
Wow!
So,
Well, there we are.
just in the field behind us. So I think we've got a full spread of different things.
Well, that's a real treat to see little owl. They're one of those species which were more common.
Yeah.
And they were more common because we had more large insect species in our countryside, and we've lost 75% of those in the last 25 years. Those are figures generated in Germany and France. It's likely that they're similar here, and that's due to that intensification of agriculture that I spoke of. So you never know, those little owls could be visiting your vegetable garden and eating the insects which are eating your vegetables. And there you go, that's a win-win. That's a win-win, isn't it? Yeah. You can't argue with that. You can't argue with that. Okay, well I think we're going to do a little bit of filming before we head off, and we can just talk to people and hand out posters and cards, please.
Sounds good.